Hi, everybody. Welcome to Down Syndrome, the 21st Perspective. I'm Ann Lewis, your host today by myself, solo. And today I have a really exciting guest for myself. I am interviewing Fritz's teacher, homeschool teacher. Her name is Amber Jackson, but many know her as Queen. Amber has been an intentional mother, devoted educator, and lifelong student of childhood. With more than a decade of teaching experience, she's spent her life exploring the world and finding home in the beautiful, complex hearts of children. So that is so beautiful, Amber. And I could feel that about you when I very first met you. I think it was 2 years ago, do you think?
Yes, it was about 2 years ago.
Yes, and I found Amber on Instagram, and she was posting videos of how she was teaching her son, Cree, who was probably 2 at the time.
Yes.
And your niece.
Yes.
Friend. And I was just amazed at what she was doing. And I just thought if I could get Fritz with her or someone like her, and he could have that one-on-one teaching, like, wow, like what we could do. We have seen so much growth in Fritz through the work that Miss Amber has done with him.
What is that?
Stomach.
Where's stomach? Good, you remember it. Okay.
Here are some videos showing you what he's able to do right now.
Liver, yes. Good. What is that? Heart, good. What is that? Good.
Sun is hot.
Good.
We are so impressed with the work Miss Amber is doing with Fritz. So I want to open the mic to you so that you can just start from the beginning. Like, tell us about how you got into education, where you were trained.
First off, thanks for having me. It's a special luxury to talk about the work that I do. I really enjoy it, and having Fritz is a joy, and I tell you that all the time. But it started for me very young, actually. My mom was a single parent for a while, and then she got married to my father, and things shifted. But in that time, I would go to childcare with my siblings, and I'd help out. And I became older. I really wanted to move to New York City. And so I moved to New York City, and I started teaching while I was out there. While I was already a decent teacher, to be coached, to be nurtured, even in that growth, even where I was so necessary for who I am today. And so now, you know, many moons later, I'm doing my own special school, and I spend my time nurturing my child, some of my nieces and nephews, along with other children. And it's such a gift. And it's nice to really emphasize responsive classroom, which is essentially this like student-centered.
Yeah, explain that.
So basically, it's a student-centered teaching where there's an understanding that just as much as a child needs to learn from the academic side, they also need to learn on the behavior side, and more so giving them opportunities to experience and respond to whatever took place.
Right.
So if I knock my cup of milk over, it's like, okay, I need to clean it up. If I knock someone's tower down, then I need to help them clean that up. Or whatever I did, I can adjust that. Like, mistakes happen, and that's okay, but we need to learn from them. But also understanding that I'm in a community amongst other people. So learning how to navigate with them, how to respect other people's voice, how to make space for people to share, and all those measures.
Sure.
But more importantly, knowing that social emotional safety is crucial to a child's development. If I don't feel safe, if I don't feel seen, if I don't feel loved, then I don't feel like I can grow here.
Right.
And so I don't feel comfortable sharing my thoughts or reading out loud. Part of it goes back to something I said around like being nurtured. Some people just don't know how, you know, and I think that shows up even in parenting. You know, I don't find myself to be like a guru or something, but I do spend time studying and researching and finding ways to learn more and get better at the skill. And so it's a lot of work. You know, there are a lot of jobs you work and you like do the job and you go home and you leave the job until you come back the next day. And teaching is just not one of those jobs.
Right.
You leave, you still have to make homework. You still have to check homework. You still have to like grade papers and put stuff in the system, and the list continues.
No, right.
So, because you're like your own secretary / the teacher, you know, and every day you get up to do presentations because you're literally teaching kids all day long and dealing with different, and then you have to do that amongst behaviors and amongst energy. So it's a lot. It's a big load.
Well, and you're taking on something that is even more than that. I mean, it's in your house. It's every day. You're letting kids stay longer and doing extended day work. You're doing homework. I mean,
it's true.
You're not giving, if you went to work in the public school system or even a private school system, you would get all those vacations.
For sure.
What made you want to do that? To forego all that kind of freedom and, you get a break in a way.
To be honest, it's Cree, He was like, I wanted to make sure that he understood that he's going to have moments, but they're really just moments. How do we adjust those moments each time so that he can still be the great version of him I know he's capable of?
Right.
And that's all coming from my own personal childhood traumas associated with being in public school and having teachers, just sort of dismiss my needs in that moment because it's like, we need to do this. And it's like, I get that, but I don't have capacity in this moment. How do we make space for that too?
Right.
And so I think so much around education that's missing is that we want kids to just do what we say. And I get it, because sometimes I want that too. But the reality is that they're their own little people, and they deserve to be seen and to be set up. And so sometimes it's a matter of just letting them know what's going to happen. My son is in a phase where every day he's like, well, where are we going? Or what are we doing? And it's like, okay, well, we're doing this, we're doing that. I'm like, remember I told you we were going to, and then he's like, oh yeah, you did say that. But it's helpful.
Oh, Fritz loves to talk about his routine of the day.
It's helpful though for them, because otherwise they're just coming along for the ride, and there's so many times they just get in the car and we're thinking about all the things that we have, and they're just like, here I am doing whatever you tell me to do, and it's like, we got to get out now, we're getting back in, then we're going here. And so it's helpful when they know.
And you're right, because that is one of the things that children, when they start to quote unquote misbehave, it's because they want some control. And so all parents here okay, we'll just give them choices of 2 choices you want. Do you want to wear the khaki shorts or the navy shorts? And then they feel
I made a power move.
Yeah. So you just find things like, do you want apples or strawberries today with your lunch? You know what I mean? Just questions like that
make a huge difference, And then eventually you get to a place with Cree, I'm like, go in your room and pick out clothes for tomorrow. And it's like, he comes back with all the parts.
Well, and they feel so helpful.
Because truthfully, they're little humans.
It's very Montessori what you are doing.
For sure. I'm married to that practice. Yes. I love it so much. So when you said that initially, I thought, I understand.
Well, I sent Max, my oldest, who's 22, to a Montessori preschool. And I went in one time to volunteer as a babysitter, basically during their lunch hour while the teachers all had a luncheon for themselves. And so I had to sit there while all these kids did lunch. Then when they were done, they took their plate over to the sink, got on a stool, washed it off, put it in a dishwasher. Then they got a handheld broom and dustpan and went under their chair and swept that up and put it away. And I'm watching all this. Meanwhile, I don't remember if Max was the 6-year-old in the room or the 3-year-old. But I just thought, oh boy, I have a lot of work to do. And I am going to make some changes. So I bought, he must have been young. I bought all the little tiny glasses and, you can feed yourself instead of a sippy cup. And just the motto was, don't do for your child what they can do for themselves. And then if they would say to me, can we order pizza? I would be like, sure, go ahead, call. And they were looking at me like, what do I say? What do I do? I'm like, what do you want? I want a pizza. Okay, you call and say, hi, can I please order a pizza?
Yeah.
And, you know your address. You give them your address.
Good practice.
And they would just, but yeah, we made them do it because.
No, I agree. I've already mapped it out in my head. Okay, my son is getting better at his handwriting. In the next couple of years, when we're at the doctor's office and I have to fill out some forms, he's going to fill it out. Right. When we're at the restaurant, even from now, I'm like, what do you want to order? Okay, so say hi to the waiter and tell them what you want. But it's those practices are still vital. It gives them an opportunity to take up space in the world beyond just with you.
And it does take longer as a parent.
It does. And there's sometimes you have to say like we were coming over and he's like, oh, Mom, can I put my own seatbelt on and stuff? And I'm like, when we're leaving, you can help me with that. But right now we have somewhere to go. And so it's I don't want to dismiss your desire. But in this case, Mommy I didn't plan best for the time for you to have that time to do this. Because some days it can take you 1 minute and some days it can take you 6. And I don't have time for it today. So
okay, well, let's switch gears and talk about when you were in New York, I know you did not have anybody with Down syndrome, but you did have kids with special needs.
For sure.
The way I'm thinking about Fritz and going to school, I think the reason why I'm with you is because I thought Fritz needs everybody learns better in a smaller environment. Everybody. That's why people pay the big bucks to go to the private schools, because they're a small class size. So, I mean, we all know that. And I just thought for Fritz to go to a public school system, to me, it seems unrealistic for Fritz to gain what he needs to be in an environment with 25 kids.
It depends on how the school operates. So some children, they have the inclusive experience, but they have a para. And so they have their one-on-one person. While that person perhaps isn't necessarily as academically skilled in terms of teaching material, the way the teacher is, they are still able to meet the needs of that particular child. Or at least follow the directions and take the child through the steps that what the teacher just instructed. So they're kind of learning with the kid. And
there's different levels of somebody that needs a para.
For sure.
So then if you, knowing Fritz or somebody with Down syndrome, would you think that Fritz sitting in there with a para is going to get what he's getting, from you? Obviously not, but...
Probably not exactly like what we have, but I definitely think it would still be quite beneficial to him, as it would be someone that's meeting his needs directly. So he's getting that one-on-one support. So sometimes when I
don't know that they do that all the time here in Texas.
I don't know either.
That's
this was I was in New York in this experience,
and my husband and I have actually looked into moving places like New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania. They all have, all my friends back east are like, what are you talking about? The kids are just in the room with us and they get an aid if they need an aid.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an option here.
Yeah, I know for sure that there's a lot of pairs for behavior, but I'm not quite sure that it shows up what it looks like in academia. But what I will say is, for me, I taught between the seats, which essentially means I would give an expectation, okay, everybody turn to page 3, start da-da-da-da-da. And so they'd all get started. But as soon as I give them that, I'm up, I set a timer, I'm like, you have this much time. The timer's going, and I'm walking around looking at everybody's work. Because how do you grow if I don't know? So I need to see what you're doing. And then I bring up work, and I'll say I'll get your paper and I'll get Cree's paper and I'll put them next to each other. And I'll say, I want you to pay attention to here. What do you notice? And I may have a specific route that I'm trying to take because I want them to notice the strategy or the skill so that they can steal from these students and then apply it to their own thinking. And so, but also sometimes I would be looking for a trend. If 7 of them got this wrong, I want to call this attention to the class. So I'll say, what do you notice here? And then I'll bring one person's work up. And so it was an error here, but we learned from this. And so when I'm done, I'll say, thank you, Ann, for sharing your work with us. We were able to learn from you. Because even though you made a mistake, we were able to learn from that. So what I'm saying is even though there's a bunch of kids in the room, depending on how those teachers are teaching, they could all be getting their needs met. Because sometimes what happens is you'll get an assignment, even if you're a kid who doesn't have special needs, and you're looking at this and you're like, I
have no idea what she's talking about. Yeah.
Exactly. And you need that support. And so having someone that can reiterate the directions to you is kind of beneficial. So I would say that it's possible. It all just depends on the makeup of the school, how they operate, how they do those things. But sometimes inclusion just means that they get to be pulled into the space with the other children, but they don't necessarily live in that room all the time.
Exactly.
They get other
it's
opportunities.
Partial. And they pull them out for the academics, and then they push them in for, art, music, gym class, that kind of stuff. Because, I do agree with life is not a special needs classroom, that saying that people say, you know, because if they're so isolated all the time, like what you were saying before about the behavior piece. So that's what, I could homeschool Fritz, but that would not benefit him the way he's getting benefited by being in your school with your other children, watching them play. He's such a visual learner. A lot of kids with Down syndrome are visual learners. And so seeing just the behavior part, like even if somebody does misbehave and maybe they have to take a break and they have to take a time out, or he's learning all of that. I mean, all kids are all the time.
For sure.
But just even watching maybe 2 kids build a tower together, or how they're building it, or how big it's getting, and how, like he just learns by watching. He's a sponge right now. And I want, I feel so blessed to have him like being in such a good space to just
for sure. I think
good things
for all of them. Like it's such a blessing that they get to have an intimate community, but also still have the agency to like have enough people where it's like, okay, well, I want to play with this person today. I want to do this, but also get opportunities to really truly practice like engaging with other people.
Yeah,
I think sometimes like people think, oh, well, you're not going to put them in school. Then, what about socialization and all these things? And
Well, that's what your school offers.
Right.
That's what's so nice about it.
right. And I'm like, thank God for that. But the truth is like, even in a school setting, sometimes they don't get as much social time as people think they get.
They're in around each other, but they're not like hanging out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when they get that time, it's so minute that it feels like they're like longing for it again.
Yes.
Whereas like my children are getting an endless amount of time to just simply play, to learn how to engage, to walk up to you and say like, may I play with you today? You know, like, are you okay? Or can I play with you? And get the comfort of knowing you're either going to say yes or you're going to say, not right now, I'll play with you later. And that doesn't always feel good,
and
but
I
you
love
learn
that you're
that.
teaching those things too.
Yeah, because consent is crucial, learning how to engage in that experience.
He's going to a therapy class that actually teaches kids that. It's like 4 little 4-year-old boys, and I mean, they obviously need that, but it's
helpful.
It's exactly what he's getting with you.
Yeah.
So now when I approached you and said like, hey, will you help me out? You were just gung-ho. Yeah. Like you didn't flinch at like, oh, I don't know if I'm able to do that, or that's going to be a little bit more challenging. And it's, like what made you just so easily say yes to this?
Well, we had spent some time prior to where I was kind of coaching you with some things. And so I learned right away what type of child Fritz was. And like, not 100%, obviously I still need to spend more time with him, but in terms of what he could do and what you were really looking for. And so I felt like I could meet those needs. I felt like I could do it. And I also knew that.
But I mean, my needs were like, teach my kid to read. Like I wasn't giving you like a non-need. Like that's a pretty big need.
No, for sure. But I also know that like there's a trajectory, like there's a process. And I knew that. But what I knew about you and even your family at that time was that if I asked you to help me in this way, you were willing to do that. You just were like, I don't want to carry the load, but I will support the load.
Well, and I just,
You wanted a break from
sometimes he doesn't want to listen to me, and it's a face-off, and I just do not have your patience. I don't.
Well, I also think that sometimes,
patience.
like, for me, it was just like, I knew that I could pour. And I knew that I could do it. So I was just like, it was a no-brainer for me in terms of like, it was less about that he has Down syndrome. It was more that, okay, what am I going to do to get them there? And what are going to be the tools that I prepare for? Because these are the things she's already revealed to me about him.
Do you do different tools to teach Fritz versus the other kids?
Sometimes, but a lot of them are very similar. A lot of times, Fritz offers like a shutdown energy, like occasionally if he doesn't want to do something.
We know that.
But again, that's not abnormal to what another child would do, right? But I find that Fritz is very much bought into like knowing that what he did was good. Like he did good work and he gets really proud. But I also noticed that when I bring in something new, he's eager to try that new thing. He has a major curiosity. And so he's like, I want to do that. And I'm like, okay. And so sometimes it's just a matter of like, that's coming up. And so he's invested in what we have to do first because he knows he's going to get to this new thing. And it's still something that he's learning, but however I presented it made him eager to want to try it. So he's like, I want to try that out. And so that makes it fun because for me, in my experience, it's hard for me to use like a manipulation type tactic because unfortunately, like I don't, it's a lot of them. So I can't just, like, oh, well, if you do this, I'll do this. If you do that, I'll do that. That's just a horrible tactic for me and it wouldn't work. I don't practice it in my parenting, but so.
that's interesting because that is like, is that like an ABA? Are you familiar with that? No. ABA is, I should know it. It's something behavioral. A lot of kids with autism utilize it. It's, first this, then this. Or,
like a step process.
You want to hold your Batman toy? Okay, first say these words and then you can have your Batman toy.
Right.
It's like that. And some people are against it. Like, oh, that's like dog training. And then, you know what I mean? Like with the cookie.
Treats.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I think it's a little different though than when I'll hear parents say like, do you want to have ice cream? Okay, well first you need to blah, blah, blah. Whereas like to me, I still don't think there's anything wrong with letting them get the ice cream. But I think that if we limit our our performance or what they do to one moment and then they get this thing, then they're in this habit of every time I do something, I'm supposed to get something.
Yeah.
Whereas like, so something I'll do with my child, like very soon he's starting swim lessons and I'm super excited about it.
Oh, yeah.
But he's a little anxious and nervous about the pool. And so he's been talking about like, he's all in Spider-Man, but he also likes these like actual spiders, like toy things. And he's been saying like, oh, I really can't find the one I had. And so I'm like, well, maybe we'll make a chart. And every time you do well at swim lessons, we'll get to a certain point and we'll put a little spot where the spider is going to go. And that's when you'll earn it. And so it's not that you do it one time. It's that you're working toward this experience. It's same as like how we go to work. We don't get paid. And if you're working a job, you have to do so many
wait 2 weeks
before you get that check. You know, you have to put out effort in order to receive this thing.
No, yeah.
You're working for something.
That's why I never really thought it was bad. I mean, I don't think it's horrible. It is the way our world runs.
It is, you know, and so I think that it's just a matter of stretching it and pushing that child. And so if this time they needed it once, then for sure, sometimes kids need to know like, oh, this is really going to happen and this is what this feels like. And then you keep pushing it back, you know?
Right.
You push for more effort until you get, you know, the production that you desire.
What do you do when Fritz has his shutdown?
I'll sometimes ask, like, do you need a moment? Because sometimes we need that.
What does that mean at your school?
If you need a moment, that means we can stop
Get
what we're
down
doing. You can take it
somewhere else.
And I can work with someone else and you can take a beat and you can go get some work. You can go get a book.
So if you say those words to Fritz, like, do you need a moment? And then would he ever say yes and then just excuse himself from the table and go over and do something else?
He'll say yes. And sometimes he just sits and he just wants to sit and watch. And I understand that too.
And then you just still wait on him. And then might look at you and say, I'm ready now.
Sometimes he'll let me know he's ready, and sometimes I'm just not ready yet.
Yeah.
So, like, he may need a moment, but now I'm working with someone else. And so even though you're ready, we're not ready at the same time, so I'll call you back in momentarily. And so it's like, okay. Yeah. I'm like, and so when I finish with that child, I'll say like, are you ready now? And he'll give me a message, you know, and I'll say, okay, well, I'm going to give you until I'm finished. So like, let's say he's not ready. Then I'll give him a bumper because now you need my help to get ready. So I'll say like, when I'm done with this next child, it's going to be your turn, you know? So if it's Cree, it's like when Cree's finished, you're next. And I want you to be ready. So please get yourself together. And so that way it's like, now you have a bumper, you know, like, okay, when this is up, it's my go again. So I really need to get myself together. She's giving me the space to do that. And so that's helpful. I also have like a little sand timer, and sometimes that's really nice for them to just sit there, let the sand drop. But I think it's important to remember that children are little humans.
Right.
And just like there are times, I'll say this, I remember a friend would say like, I don't understand. We're doing the same stuff every day and she's giving me grief and blah, 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 blah. And I said, how many times do you get up every day and you have to go to work and you don't want to do it? Right. How many times do you get up and you just need to do the basic things? You need to cook and you don't feel like it. That's what she's saying to you today. It doesn't matter that she does it every day. She just doesn't want to do it today. Right. And that's understandable because we go through that as humans too. We're just bigger versions of it and we can just be like, well, I got to do it because blah, blah, blah. And so sometimes it's like explaining that to them. Like, I get you don't want to. So what about if I give you this extra time today? Mm-hmm. Because I know you need a little bit, but I do need you to know that when this timer goes off, we've took away some of our slow time to play and do the things we normally do. Right. So we got to move a little faster. And if nothing has changed, does he need a moment now? You know what I mean? So I think that you just have to pay attention to your children and see what you notice and push for that. But I definitely think that some things feel like they are special to children with special needs. And then there's some things that are like, nah, this is a trend for all of them. They all have moments where they showcase
Well,
these
and you're
behaviors.
so helpful with that for me because sometimes I can get worked up about certain things. And you're always like, yeah, but that's just like a common kid thing. And I'm, and I always just attribute anything that he does. Like, oh my gosh, it's the Down syndrome. Like, what supplement can I get to like knock that out, And, But the point is, like, I'm always trying to fix a problem, like everything that he does instead of just realizing like it's just certain things that kids do.
When I was coaching you, and I remember us having these conversations and I'd say like, take a breath, like because we can't fix it right now.
Right.
And I think it's even, I take my own advice often and I'm just like, breathe, take a moment, think about what you're feeling. Because sometimes too, like I love the responsive classroom, especially because it requires you to really just take a beat with yourself and see like, which is also in the family of gentle parenting and all that as well. But being intentional with how you're navigating, like, okay, pause. Why am I about to get angry? Because they knocked the juice over. It's juice and it can be cleaned up. having those moments where you pause and just wait.
That does work for Fritz. Like, so if you're ever in need of something, because like I told you, when I'm trying to do the vocab or the reading words in the morning, and sometimes if I hold them, like I hold them while I'm driving,
right? Like with one hand.
Yeah, and if he just gets silent, like he's just telling me I don't want to do this right now, and he doesn't get to watch his little like education stuff in the car until we get through them. And so normally I'd be like, Fritz, come on, just say the word. Like I would just get so
irritable,
annoyed. Like, let's just do this. And so now because of you, like I don't know, like your energy is just, I just learn, you know what I mean? I'm reminded of all the Montessori stuff. And so I'll just take my hand away and I just bring the cards back and I just keep driving and I don't say a word. I'm not mad. I don't care. You don't want to do it today.
Say less.
But we're still not going to watch the movie.
All right.
And he doesn't even ask, or he'll say to me, I'm ready, you know? And I'm like, oh, good. You want to do it? Okay. And then we just
carry on.
But it helps to have that something. You know what I mean?
Because it's also like good for you because you just need to take a beat. It's like, okay, you know, like it's not the end of the world. Yes, I would love to keep practicing this. I know this makes you better. But in this moment, you're saying, I don't want to do it.
And he feels in control, but he also isn't getting everything he wants.
Exactly.
That he's going to become a BRAT. You know what I mean? Like,
and it's also good for him to understand that it's not just something I'm saying. It's something I'll execute. So if you don't want to do this thing, and this is what was supposed to happen on the other side of that, it won't happen.
I'm really big on that with parenting. Like, you can't give these idle threats and not follow through, or you're going to lose, like, all
everything.
Discipline.
Yeah, because it's like, what are you teaching
You're
them
going to have a monster on your hands.
Where's your standard? Yeah. So I fully agree with that. I'm very big on that. I'm like, nope, this is the standard. Expectation is this. And if you're not going to meet that, I understand.
And I know, like, sometimes I'll do things like that and be like, if you don't do this, like, we're not going to watch any movie. We let them watch like 15 minutes of a show after dinner before bed. And it's so much easier in the family for everyone to just get that, like, chill time because it's like almost 8 and everybody's just kind of done.
Yeah.
But, you know, and like we have to like uphold what we said. Standard. And I'm like, I'm sorry, guys, I know, but.
It is what it is.
So now if a mom was at home or not at home and thinking about wanting to homeschool their child with Down syndrome, have you found any certain methods?
I think most importantly, Fritz knows the sounds. And so because he knows those sounds, I constantly question based off the sound. So my practice is like, what sound is this? What sound does this make? What sound does this make? Let's put it all together. What do you hear? And so for a while, I was sort of like spoon feeding him that process so that he can hear me do it. But now I can put anything in front of him just about, especially if it's decodable, and he can pretty much blend those things out. Yeah. And that was the goal.
Sometimes he'll forget it. Like he'll sound like the new words like rip. He'll be like, ip.
I know.
And I'm like, but what's the first sound you heard?
Right.
And like, you know, like, why is he doing that?
Sometimes I think it's just like he's forgetting to chunk it all together, which lets me know that as we progress to larger words, it's going to be really important that he is making one sound with 2 letters if he can, because maybe it's getting tough to hold so many in his head at times.
Yes.
Because it doesn't happen often. That's the thing. Like because on that page, it'll be like 4 of the words and he'll do it for the other 4 and get to the last one. And it's just like, I
just want him to have a love of like, wow, like you remember when you were telling me that Cree was learning to read and like then all of a sudden he's seeing signs on the streets in different places and it's like, whoa, I know what that says now. Right. Like that's what all this stuff is in my environment, you know? And so when I get a book out that has the word hop or, you know, something that I already know he knows from a flashcard, why isn't he transferring it to the love of like, wow, I can read this?
I don't know. I think all kids express it so differently. I think that it may still come, you know. I think that, you know, it may be a minute before he starts to make the correlation, but I think too, like part of it is like a drill at times too. He's like, okay, I got to know this, got to know this, got to know this. And so I think it's healthy that you guys are practicing. I think that, you know, be cognizant of how often it feels like I have to do this versus like I get to do this.
Well, he is requesting homework. It was so cute because my 15-year-old, who everybody knows if you're watching this podcast, Jane, who was on here, she's like, she banters with Fritz. Like, she doesn't treat him like he's, this like baby cutesy, whatever. Like the
brother.
other day, it was Friday night, it was last night. And after dinner, he was like, I want to do homework. And she's like, you nerd. Why do you want to do homework? Like she's just like, it was just funny. We were laughing. But I'm noticing that he's requesting homework. Like,
which is exciting.
Over the break, he didn't have homework. And so he was like, I want homework. So, I get out my own little worksheets or whatever that I have at the house and I like give him fake homework. But he's like asking for it. And I don't know if it's because Fritz loves to do the exact same thing every day. And that could be my fault or it could just be like something he loves because I'm a very routine-oriented person. But he does request it.
No, that's amazing. Well, I literally just got them the program iExcel. I don't know if you've heard of it before, but I really like iExcel. Basically, it's just like a web browser, like a website that they can do on like the iPad or even on the computer.
iExcel?
No, just iExcel.
Oh.
Literally, yeah. It's going to track them, so I can assign them different things. And so just to give them...
And parents can log on at home?
Yep. And so the intention is to go like, to like blend, to marry the two things where they're doing some things on paper.
And is it all subjects?
We'll do math, science, social studies, and reading.
Oh my gosh, they're so far ahead.
I love that for me because it's like I get the grace to push where you need, slow down where you want, and like elevate.
Yes.
And so there's a combination of where we're doing two things. Like we started working on addition, and it's a very simple introduction. Like I have 4, now make it 1 more. And so now that's 5. But it's like, and then I showed them the equation. You just did 4 plus 1. But this is what I told you to do and you did the work. And so I'm like, pat yourself on the back. This big work you just did. And they're like, ooh, good
When
job.
is that supposed to even start?
Like mid-kindergarten, latter part of like in the middle of the kindergarten year.
Okay.
Like probably around like November, December, they start to expose that. So just think, we're a little bit ahead of that. And so that gives us grace as we practice with other things. And I find that like making 10 and is such an extreme part of who they become as mathematicians. And so I get to spend such a beautiful time there. Yeah. So anyways, I just like the flexibility. I do miss
that. Like I say this all the time, but like that was like my favorite thing is having those like conversations with your kid when you see them just blossoming and like exploding. And Fritz does it in his own way. Yeah. But
I know what you mean.
Sometimes he just says the same things to us all the time, and we're like, Fritz, let's expand. Let's look around. Let's, ask different questions. And
I get it, though. Yeah. Because I've been working with them also on like Comprehension. And so we have this I worked with a guy who came up with this program. Basically, it's not really a program, but he came up with this thing called the character wheel. And essentially, there are certain things that a character is going to do as you track them in a text, which is parallel to what we do in life. And anyways, we were reading this book called Willie the Wizard, and we've loved it so much. And there's a part in it but before we start the story, I'm like, okay, this is a fiction text. I want you to know it's fiction. It's really realistic fiction because it's something that could happen, but not necessarily whatever. And I'm like talking to them like this. And then I'll say, and so there's some thinking jobs that we have while we read this. We want to first figure out who's the character, the main one, the one we're talking about the most. If there's a problem, there's usually a problem. And then how do they solve the problem? And then finally, what's the lesson that they learn? And so we
and
go
what is Fritz doing during this conversation?
He's sitting there, he's engaging. So I'm like, who's the character? Who's the character? And they're like, oh, it's Willie, And so sometimes he's just soaking it up. And he's taught me to pay attention to how he's learning in those settings. And sometimes he'll shock me and he'll just say, oh, well, it's because he couldn't find his boot. He didn't have boots. And he'll just say it. Wow. And so there are moments where he's like, I'm just going to listen. I'm engaging in this dialogue. And then there are moments where I'm not.
Yeah, like you just never know what he's soaking in.
Exactly.
Is there anything else that we missed or that you'd like to say about your school or...
Sure. Queen's Corner is my safe haven where I homeschool right now 6 beautiful children that come in from different walks of life, and they're all engaging in the special work. It's where I spend time nurturing them, not only as like powerful academia children with great academics, but also kids who can just navigate this life, be amongst other people, and understand that they matter and that they're important, and that the voice that they have in their body is just important, and they should use it to articulate whatever it is that they need. where they get the opportunity to just be and exist, but at the same time grow. It's a place they want to come back to day in and day out. And so
That's for sure.
I actually have 2 spaces. So if you're interested and you're in the Houston area, please reach me on Instagram and we can chat more.
Is there a certain age?
Yeah. So right now I'm working with 3 to 6. That's a really good age for us right now. So if you're in that age bracket, definitely chat with me.
All right, wonderful. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in to Down Syndrome, the 21st Perspective.
Thanks
Have a
for
great
having me.
day.
Bye-bye.